grow up with a NES, PlayStation, Star Wars, cartoons, and 80s TV? Do you like to think who would win in a fight between Batman and the Master Chief? Comics, games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of geeks. Games, movies, music, and TV, they're gonna tell you everything you need. Superheroes or not, they got your back. They're gonna save the world of This Week in Geek. This Week in Geek.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome out to a review show. This is in place of the regular Twig podcast that we would normally have had on Sunday or Monday, but it is the long weekend here in Canada for Thanksgiving. It's probably being released a little shortly after, so maybe Tuesday morning you're hearing this, but that's because we decided to take the actual long weekend off. We had planned to do a regular show, but scheduling wouldn't suffice, as well as being full of turkeys and naps and whatnot. Didn't work, and we had a lot of reviews that we were already sort of ready to go with and rearing to go with, so Birdman and I huddled and said, hey, let's do a review show and come back with a regular show next week once everybody's refreshed and back from the holidays. So there's actually going to be a fair bit in here. This is going to be like a bigger roundup of a lot of stuff that has come in the last week or two of September into the first week or so of October. That is sort of, it's not like a gift guide per se, even though it's got enough stuff in here that we could probably consider it as such. Some stuff here is probably going to show up later on as we get closer to the holidays, when we want to revisit things for like Black Friday, holiday gift guides, that sort of stuff. So there's some early ideas that you might want to check out in here. And because of that, we're not going to talk too much here at the beginning, but just know that there's a good variety. Birdman has a bunch in here. From toys to movies, we've got games, we've got a review in here from Ken on one of the new Lego games. We've got a few things for myself. I will probably do a bit of a roundup, maybe even here in the beginning here. I've been playing a bunch of games that I haven't had a chance to do like full, really big in-depth reviews for, that we might revisit a little bit down the line, but that I wanted to mention specifically as, you know, stuff that I think is pretty cool, that I've done enough of an impression on to know whether or not I can recommend them. And I'll just sort of go off the top of the cuff here. First one is Shrine's Legacy. This is a new indie RPG that I got a review code for PC for, and it's done in like the 16-bit style, somewhere between 16-bit and PS1 graphics. And it plays very much like, almost like a Secret of Mana sort of game, like the Mana style, where mixed with a little bit of Zelda, and it has twinges of other things in there, but essentially you are playing a boy in a village, and there's some mystery surrounding it, but the idea is there is a sword that you have, the Shrine Sword, that can be powered up with different objects that give it different magical powers, and you're being pursued by an evil force and yada yada, you know, the drill. It's pretty well put together. The controls are a little bit slippery in that I wish they were a little more concise, and I wish you could move a little bit faster, but it's fitting for the style of game that it is and for what it's trying to evoke from that mid-90s era. The boss battles are good in that you can figure out the patterns pretty easy, but it still has a bit of a challenge to it. There is a system of equipping gems that give you different powers or augmenting yourself a little bit like relics or materia in like other famous games. And it's got a good style. There is some jankiness when it comes to the actual dialogue in it. I'm not the biggest fan when it comes to just how the actual how it pans out when it comes to the writing. It's a little bit stilted, but it's still easy enough to follow. I just wish it was a little bit faster. It almost feels like whoever wrote it I don't know necessarily, but like English didn't feel like it was their first language, or if it was, it might have sounded better in their heads before putting it together. But that's just a little quibble aside. I think it's pretty fun. I do think it's for sure worth checking out for sure. And I think it might go under some people's radar. I've also been playing Yooka-Replay-Ly. Replay-Ly. Such a tongue twister, I know. We reviewed the demo that was up in the summertime, and I'm happy to say that now that the full game is out, or at least available for me for review, I can say this. It has been a lot better performant on my computer. There's a lot of bug fixes they implemented since the summer. A lot of work's been done since that build. And it runs smoothly, plays great. If you're interested in hearing more about that, honestly, go back and listen to the review there, because we went a little more in depth with that. But, if you're into, classic, rare, quote-unquote, era 3D collectathon platformers, that's definitely going to be one for you. I've also been checking out Effulgence RPG, which is a really unique art style, independent, created RPG. I'm playing this on PC as well, where like lots of particle effects and stuff, and everything is sort of built, almost looks like ASCII art. There's a lot of cool stuff here, interesting ideas. I'm not going to be for everybody. I want to get a little more gameplay in there, and I'll maybe revisit that to talk about later on. But I've had a good time with it so far. That's just sort of first impressions. It's not the most amazing thing to write home about, other than it's a very unique style that I think might pique people's interest if you're looking for something that's a little off the beaten path. Also, as far as first impressions go, I've had a chance to play a bit of NBA Bounce. This was a out of sort of left field game that I remember that it was announced a little while ago, but for anybody wondering, it is a licensed NBA game, but it's not like your classic simulator, NBA style game. You're playing as like mascots of the different NBA teams, and it's done more like a kid arcade style game. It's available on PS4, Switch, and Xbox. And I've had a chance to play it, and I'm having pretty fun with it. It's fairly simplistic in its gameplay style, which is good. It's not over bloated or anything. The controls are pretty good for what I've been playing so far. Visually, it does what it needs to do. It's a family-friendly basketball game. You can customize your player and with tons of different avatar settings and whatnot. You can play local with up to 4 players, which is great. I did have a chance to play at least 2-player. I haven't had a chance to play 4-player, but it is something I could see families sitting down together and playing. There are also a bunch of different difficulty settings that you can select if you want to give yourself more of a challenge, or if you want to just sort of ease up on it for family play, which is great. I do think it's pretty good. That's one that I do think would make a good game for kids and family. So, wait a little bit. Maybe we'll see if it pops up on our holiday gift guide, depending on how that shapes up. So I've also been playing Little Nightmares. And I can mention this, at least so far from what I've been playing. You guys know me. I am not somebody that does well or likes a lot of horror games, and generally it's because I'm somebody whose blood pressure will spike, and I'm on blood pressure pills anyway when something like jump scares or crazy stuff happens. But some things that are creepy or have a menace, that sort of horror, I'm fine with. And there's a little bit of jumpy stuff here, but for the most part it's not like that. And I've been pretty darn happy with Little Nightmares 3. I didn't play the first 2 games. I'd seen them. I didn't think they were going to be for me, and I went, you know what, let's give it a go. I was offered a review code for this, and I said, sure, why not? And visually, it's absolutely like mesmerizing and stunning. It's the art style is so captivating, and at the same time, I was not like, my heart wasn't racing, pulse per, going crazy or anything, but I've had a good time with it so far. I think that if you're somebody like me who doesn't like maybe the traditional quote-unquote horror games, this might be one to check out. The audio-visual presentation is fantastic. Controls pretty good. I don't want to spoil anything in particular, but it's a pretty fun ride, I'll say that. I'm not completely done yet, because obviously receiving it right around the time of the holidays, so I might come back and talk a little more about it later. But so far, first impressions are it's fantastic, and you're definitely going to want to check it out. Now, another indie title that I've been playing a little bit of was Dreams of Another. Now, Dreams of Another is, if you're wondering what that was the game that was shown off. I think it was at one of the PlayStation showcases. Was it about a year ago now, maybe? Or was that... It might have been at like the Game Awards or one of Jeff's things. But this was the sort of third-person shooter thing where you're shooting like particles or clouds and things are opening up, and it had like a really weird sort of trailer, and I was like, that looks interesting. And I was sent a review code on Steam, so I hooked it up to my my good computer and the good TV in the living room, and I've sort of been going through it, and I'm thinking this is one of the more unique experiences out there. I've played a few indie titles that are like lower budget than this recently that gave off similar vibes, but this one is still like one of the most polished games of its style. It's hard to even pinpoint what the style is or what the genre is, and for that I like it. Visually, it's very, very interesting. As far as an experience, I think it can run on decent hardware. Obviously, the better hardware you have, the better, the particle effects and the design of the what was like voxel clouds or whatever it is, supposed to be volumetric particles. It's like a tech demo that happens to have a cohesive style, and I'm really happy with that so far. I've also been playing a little bit Wuchang Fallen Feathers. This is something that released a little while ago, but there was, I guess, another push to sort of talk about it, and they offered a review code, and I went, yeah, you know what, let's check it out. I'm not usually a fan of games like this, but I found that the controls are pretty good. It's been out long enough now that there's been some patches on PC so that it performs well. I'm not going to go really in depth into it because it's been out for a little bit, so everybody's already really talked about it. Just know that I'm liking it so far, and I'm going to see, where it goes and if I can actually beat it, because it's not the kind of game that I'm usually great at playing that way. But I think it's pretty good. So that's sort of been, the indie games and the smaller games that I've had time in the last couple of weeks to get impressions on. Full-fledged, deep, in-depth reviews might come later. If not, you'll probably see some of these pop up on our gift guides as ideas once I'm able to complete all of them. As you can tell, I've been juggling a fair bit here, but all of them interesting enough. I'll put links in the description if you want to check them out. I do think that they're all unique in some way that might, hit on certain points of everybody's interests. But yeah, that's it for, I guess, our little intro / game preview here that I've done. I'll have a few other reviews likely within the show. And Birdman's got a whole bunch in here, as does Ken. We've got a review in here from him on one of the new Lego games that have come out, because there's multiples that are out now, or at least coming now. And I'll come back at the end just to sort of say, what's been going on, what we've got coming up programming-wise. But as it is right now, let's get into the reviews, and I know Birdman's got a lot of cool stuff he wants to show you.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk about something really special we got sent from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm going to be talking about the 4K Ultra HD plus a digital code of Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. So this is a movie that completely missed me when it originally came out, and I want to say the early 2000s, so like 2004, 2005, somewhere in that uber hot topic era where like Tim Burton was like super hot. Nightmare Before Christmas was still on everything. Big Fish was kind of a big deal, and everybody loved Burton, Helen Bonham Carter, Johnny Depp. All the stars are here. And for that reason, I avoided it. Now that I've had the benefit of time, the chance to grow up, and to appreciate this movie as something completely different, what I got was something very surprising. It's a story about two people who are sort of engaged to be married, but obviously things go astray because, well, they don't really kind of know each other. And It turns out this is actually based on a folk tale in Eastern Europe where someone places a ring on a twig, but it turns out to be the finger of like a skeleton. And well, we get the aforementioned corpse bride, and you get this whimsical adventure into the underworld, but also what it means to talk about responsibility and sort of looking at the Victorian era of, you know, arranged marriages and whatnot. And it's a really cute story. I mean, all things considered, I had a tremendously good time with it. Seeing his little dead dog come back to life, Scraps, I thought was kind of a cute choice, as the corpse bride's like, I've got a wedding gift for you, and it's his old dog who's passed away. And again, there's a really cute ending here. I won't spoil it, but I'll say, kind of reminds me of Coco, where you get to see all your loved ones again. And I was really impressed with it. And this movie does not overstay its welcome. Like, it's under 90 minutes, which was very surprising. I expected this to be at least 90 at the bare minimum, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, sort of like that 110 minute kind of runtime for most kind of movies. But no, it is gorgeous stop motion, and especially seeing this in 4K, you really see a lot of the detail they wanted to bring out, especially with the corpse bride, showing all the individual strands of hair, how her veil moves, how her eyelashes move. There are a couple new featurettes here which do talk with some people who were involved in the cast and crew like 20 years later, and they're like, hey, this is the first time I've seen you since this happened back in 2004 to 2005. And it's an interesting way for them to look back at their project and share some stories and some behind the scenes footage with Tim Burton at the time. Plus, you do get a lot of the archival stuff that's already out there, as far as I understand. Can I recommend this as a release for the holiday? Yeah, actually. I think this is a fantastic movie. And I do think it's worth watching every now and again. Like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a brisk, like, just over 80 something minutes. And the performances are really enjoyable. Nobody's really hamming it up. Having Christopher Lee show up is kind of amazing. They do tell kind of a cute anecdote how Saruman himself showed up in like bunny slippers, I think, if I recall that special feature correctly. But no, seriously, Corpse Bride on 4K, a surprising addition to my 4K disc collection, and a big thanks to Warner Brothers for sending this over. You should definitely check this out. It is definitely worth your time. And if you weren't a fan of Tim Burton's, maybe this will change your mind, to be honest with you. Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really interesting we got sent from our friends over at Wizards of the Coast. They have sent over the Dungeons & Dragons starter set. This is Heroes of the Borderlands. This was originally something that was published back in 1979, back with the original D&D. I think I actually might still have this in my D&D collection, because I do have quite a selection of older D&D books. But what this is the starter set. So this is having a couple of characters that will go from levels 1 to 3. And you get your greatest hits of classes. You're getting your fighter, your cleric, your wizard, your rogue, but there are no classes like druid, paladin, artificer, stuff like that. But you're getting a lot here. Like, you're getting cards that explain how you work, how does your species work, what do your backgrounds do, what does this item do, spell cards. Like, there's a lot here. In terms of physical value, this box is chunky. Like, this box is probably a mimic. Yeah, you could easily take out a copper dragon wormling with this thing, which oddly enough shows up in this game. So what this is, you get 3 separate quote-unquote adventures. There's the Caves of Chaos, how aptly named. There's the Keep on the aforementioned Borderlands, and then there's the Wilderness. And you can interact with various NPCs, have encounters and stuff like that. This is based upon the 2024 rule set, and it's more meant as kind of an intro to the game. And as that, I think it works, but I don't see a lot of strong narrative structure here. I think, honestly, this is kind of a fun idea as a party gift. Like, if you know there's a group of people who want to play D&D and you know somebody wants to be the DM, this is not a bad way to do it, to get people involved, mostly because of all the physical stuff here. Like, there are tons of maps here. Like, hey, here are the cave. Here's what the borderland looks like. There's a lot physically here. Plus, there's like gold tokens, monster tokens, player tokens. And that can eventually lead people up to maybe wanting to buy their own minis, to get their own maps, whether they want something elaborate, whether you're going to like Chase Peku or something, or whether you're buying professionally made maps, or hell, maybe you're one of those weird people, and I say that lightly, who 3D prints their own terrain and paints it. And believe me, I'm so jealous of people that can actually do that, because that's way beyond my skill level. But in terms of having something that can teach the basics of the game, I don't think it's bad, because you do get a playbook that everybody kind of reads, and the dungeon master walks you through, like, okay, here's what everything means, here's how the game works. Mechanically, I think it lays it out really well and explains it pretty easy. Overall, I think for the value you're getting here, physically, you're getting a lot. In terms of the Dungeons and Dragons experience, I think it would have been cool, personally, if they'd reprinted more epic adventures. Like, if you're going to do Heroes of the Borderlands, let's see what else came out that year. And here's a couple of really strong adventures. Like, I think of stuff that comes out of, like, Journeys of the Radiant Citadel, Candlekeep Mysteries, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, anything that's a bunch of adventure hooks. There's like, here's a bunch of things, here's like a big plot, here's a couple of really big NPCs, and go upon your way. What I do see this as, it's covered in one of the player handouts, eventually you befriend people at the keep and you can use it as a base of operations. That, I think, is very interesting. It might be kind of a fun way to kick off a campaign, especially if you're running all the way from level 1 to 3 before people pick their subclass and really figure out what the power creep is in their games. This isn't terrible in that regard. Like, this feels like very much like baby's first D&D, whereas a lot of people probably around my age who are just starting to come into the game, you could watch content creators like D&D Shorts, Dungeon Dudes, Ginny D, and stuff like that to learn how to make characters and up your roleplay experience so you can come into the game at level 3 and 5 when your subclasses have come online, when you have a lot more powers to play with. But if you're starting with an experience like the starter set, you don't have a bucket full of hit points. You don't have like 10 or 15 spell slots across a variety of different levels. You're not min-maxing combos yet. So this is a very interesting way to teach someone to play. In fact, I would argue the starter set might be a really good thing for Wizards to break out at Adventurers League or at conventions. I could see, because a lot of the smaller stuff that happens in the Caves of Chaos, yeah, you could play a couple of those in like an afternoon, and that's a wonderful way to demo Dungeons and Dragons to get to people. Like, I remember I was working as a camp counselor this summer, and I was very surprised how much of the kids had an in-depth knowledge of the rules of D&D. So I don't think I would start them with something like this. I think I could reasonably start them with the DM's Guide, the Player's Handbook, and then going on a site like D&D Beyond, which this box set does encourage you to go when you want to go to higher levels and unlock things. I think it would have been interesting had they included like a coupon for like a free month of Master Tier or something, just to encourage people to maybe get used to using the D&D Beyond service. Like, I won't play D&D without it because I rely so much on those digital tools, so please don't ever take those away from me. But no, seriously, I think the Dungeons and Dragons, the starter set, Heroes of the Borderlands, physically, I think it's worth it. From a gameplay perspective, if you're experienced, probably not, unless you really want the physical stuff like maps and handouts. But realistically, you could make those yourself and probably cheaper. However, if you are a parent, if you are any kind of an educator, actually, this might be fun to pick up for your school's D&D club. I could also see this being a wonderful thing to demo at conventions. You might get some more people to join us in the fight against Tiamat and Vecna and whatnot, or Takesis. So again, that's my recommendation. For older players, probably not, and more experienced. For newer players, I don't think this is a terrible entry point, especially if you can get people around a table and enjoy nights of fun and high adventure.
Alex, the producer here, just with a quick 1-2 punch from our friends over at Paramount Home Video. We were sent review copies of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning and the new Smurfs movie. Now, Mission Impossible is a 4K Ultra HD release that comes with a slipcover and a whack of special features that you'd expect from the previous Mission Impossible films. I did not get a chance to see this in theaters. This is the first one I didn't see in theaters since the first movie. I'd seen all of them in theaters whenever they came out. Just didn't get a chance to go and see this. I had friends that had middling reviews of it. Some people liked it, some people thought it was a letdown. I think the franchise had been building so big that maybe everything was going to be a letdown. In watching it, it was better than I was told, better than I expected, but I do see why some people might have had some issues with it. I won't critique the plot lines too much because I think it's something you're going to have to choose if you like it yourself or not. Whereas the last film prior to this left on a really, really high note. They had split the films famously in two when they were filming them. And we had to wait for this, and I think maybe it was the wait that some people were disappointed with, because it still has all the high octane action that you expect from pretty much any Tom Cruise movie at this point. Visually stunning, very well crafted and put together, audio video package. The features are pretty top notch, and obviously the tone mapping on the 4K version is perfect. It is a 4K disc. It also comes with a Blu-ray and a digital code, so you can watch it pretty much in any format that you'd want. Solid release. Are you going to want to buy it? Well, don't buy it if it's the only Mission Impossible that you have. You want this to complete your collection, or to get to somebody if they're pairing it together. It is something that takes place right after the previous film, so if they haven't seen the previous one, pick them up together. That's my recommendation. As for the Smurfs, not been a fan of the Smurfs movies in the past, and this is fine for a family film. It's fine. That's the best way to put it. The previous Smurf films were at a different studio. This time, it's Paramount's turn to take a whack at the franchise. And the big deal that everything was advertising with this was that it's Rihanna is Smurfette in the new version of the Smurfs. And for what it's worth, it's going to be entertaining for the kids. It's a lower budget affair than the previous Smurf films, and it's pretty obvious that it's that. I know it didn't do well in theaters, or what they were expecting it to do, but I think some of that has to do with timing of when it was released, marketing of it, and so forth. What you get here is a family affair romp that kids are going to love if you're, if they're the right age and into that, and it's not going to be super offensive to adults watching it. We've seen plenty of family films come out in the last little bit that were so bad that no, it wasn't worth it for anybody. But here it does, I guess, the franchise well, and it's good for the kids. As far as special features are concerned, there is a voice acting behind the scenes featurette on here called Blue in the Booth, and it's a bit of a fluff piece, but it's fine. There's other documentary little pieces here on the Smurf characters and who they are. There's a more interesting feature on here about animating the Smurfs that was actually pretty good, that showed how they composite and put everything together, as well as a little feature on the music involved, as well as some of the music videos that they create for this stuff. It's all included here as well. It's pretty standard stuff. Heavy marketing, obviously, in the Rihanna stuff here, with a music video that she created for it included. And if that's what you're going for, if that's what you're looking at, you're perfectly fine. I would say for most people, it's probably worth a rental or digital copy that way. If you're getting it for the kids and the kids are big fans, then I don't think that the Blu-ray itself is going to disappoint. But it's not something that, is going to be a diehard thing that people remember in the future unless you're already a big fan of the franchise or the kids are at that perfect age. If that's the case, it'll make a good gift.
Hey everyone, this is David for This Week in Geek, and I want to tell you about a great book I just read that is available right now from Titan Books. We are at the end of one of my favorite summer events, the 50th anniversary of Jaws. Yes, the immortal classic from 1975 had a huge celebration this summer, and with that in mind, I'm excited to tell you about Jaws, Memories from Martha's Vineyard, revised and updated edition by Matt Taylor. You're going to need a bigger coffee table because this 336-page book is a must-have for any Jaws, film, or history fan. Showcasing the spring, summer, and fall of 1974 when the production of Steven Spielberg's Jaws took over the small island of Martha's Vineyard. Using hundreds of rare and never-before-seen photos plus personal accounts from the local cast and crew, no stone is left unturned in this legacy piece to one of the greatest films of all time. You'll hear about why Martha's Vineyard was selected for the production, day-by-day breakdowns of the shoot, including the many infamous moments of our nemesis of the film, Bruce the Shark, wasn't working, plus the original and horrifying glimpses of how Alex Kittner's attack was originally intended, the day the Orca really sank, the impact the film has had on the island today, and so much more. As a lifelong Jaws fan, I thought I knew everything there was to know about the film, but the efforts of Matt Taylor and Jaws collector Jim Beller with this book made me realize I was dead wrong. Not only can you feel what a true passion project this was, but you as the reader will be taken back in time to witness this production happen before your very eyes. Trust me when I say, if you've been holding out on picking this up, now is the time to get yourself a copy from Titan Books. This new, updated, and expanded edition now features even more rare and never-before-seen pictures than the previous editions, some of which are also in color for the first time. There are a plethora of books out all about Jaws, but as someone who's read many of them, you can't get better than Jaws, Memories from Martha's Vineyard, revised and updated edition by Matt Taylor, available now at titanbooks.com.
Freddy Krueger here, and you're listening to Mike the Birdman and the rest of the crew this week in Geek.net.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk about something extremely special that we got sent for review from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the 4K Ultra HD plus digital code of A Nightmare on Elm Street 7 film collection. So this is something I've been looking forward to forever. Now, we have had some of the Nightmare movies on 4K. Notably, we had Nightmare on Elm Street last year, I believe. And that when this set was announced, a lot of people were really excited, myself included. There have been previous Blu-ray releases of all the movies, but it was very bare bones, very just kind of there, here's the movie's party on. Now, there was a limited edition set available, which does look like Freddy's sweater, but I think it was limited to either 15,000 units or 1,500 units. Those units are getting scalped, so I didn't get that, which is fine. I'm not big in the steelbooks anyway, just because, shelf space. But what I did get was the base version of this set, and it's not bad. So to talk about this right off the hop, the only movies that are new, quote unquote, and might be new to viewers are Nightmare 1 and Nightmare 5, which do feature some uncut stuff. Most notably, I had seen Nightmare 5 uncut, and I want to say I saw this originally on VHS, maybe Laserdisc. And what it is, it extends a little bit of Greta's death, is a little bit more brutal, where Freddy's feeding her to herself, and Dan's death is a little bit more intense, where you see some of the stuff pop into his skin, and his skull gets ripped off a little bit more, and he looks more like a motorcycle Borg, I guess. It looks cooler, I guess. Unless you knew what you were looking for, a casual viewer may not necessarily pick this up. Again, to talk about the real reason I was really excited for this was special features. Now, you do get everything archival to a point, as far as I can tell. I can't find my original 90s box set, which did have a lot of stuff. And there was an exclusive bonus disc called the Nightmare Encyclopedia that has not been ported over, which I think is a real tragedy to this set. I was really hoping they would do something with that. Now, there are 2 new special features, and I want to say they're on a new Nightmare, and they're nothing special. Like, they're basically interviews. But like I said, you are getting some pretty worthwhile stuff here. Like, again, if you're interested into this stuff, yeah, you're not really going to be left wanting for much. Although, however, if you really want to know more about Nightmare on Elm Street, there was a wonderful documentary put out a number of years ago by 1428 Films, but I think it was Danny Hudson put it out, and it was called Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy, and that's like a 5-hour documentary deep dive. Very cool. I've interviewed him on the show and actually met Heather Lankenkamp at a Toronto Fan Expo a number of years ago, and I have her autograph around here somewhere. But yeah, to talk about the actual box set itself, visually everything looks really good. The 2 movies I mostly paid attention to were Nightmare 1 and Nightmare 5. Those are the ones that I sat and watched the entire way through. Visually, everything looks great. Sound effect wise, I'm watching this on a 5.1 surround sound system, and that's routed through my Xbox Series X. I think it sounds pretty good. I don't notice any real problems. I found the sound field really rich. I could hear everything. And yeah, really appreciate that. I have heard some minor complaints about this set, and I did encounter one thing that was really odd. When I took my discs out of its packaging, it's very much I would call library flip, there was a weird film on the back of each and every disc. Now, I had to wipe it off and wipe the disc off itself as well as the disc holder. It didn't affect playback, but it was really weird. I didn't quite know what to make of it. I don't know whether this is a unique problem to me or not, but I thought it was something that should be mentioned. So if you happen to crack this set open and you manage to get a copy, maybe give your discs a good once over clean before you put them into whatever physical media player you're using, it be it an Xbox, PlayStation, or a dedicated 4K movie player. Overall, can I recommend this set? I think it's pretty solid. I really do. Having these in 4K, this is probably the best it's going to look for quite some time. I will say though, and this is no shade thrown, I do wish a boutique company like Shout Factory or Arrow Video had gotten a hold of this set, because I really feel we probably would have gotten Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street Legacy included as a bonus disc. And I really would wonder if we might have gotten something with Freddy's Nightmares. I think this would have been the perfect opportunity to port some of those over into 4K, or at least upscaled as much as they possibly could be. Maybe the episodes like No More Mr. Nice Guy, and maybe some of the more Freddy-centric episodes of Freddy's Nightmares. And if you want to learn more about that, there is a wonderful podcast called Welcome to Primetime, a Freddy's Nightmares podcast, which is done by my friends David Denoyer and Enrique Couto, that wrapped up a couple of years ago. And that's a pretty interesting resource if you want to know more about Freddy's Nightmares. But as a 4K set, I like it. I do wish more effort was put into it, but visually and from an audio level, no real complaints here. I have heard some people say they don't find Dream Master to be as well lit. For my brief time with it, I don't think that's a problem. But overall, very pleased. I just wish more special features had been brought over from previous releases, or if we'd gotten an entirely new disc to replace the Nightmare Encyclopedia, that would have been really cool, and that would have really made my day. So that's my opinion and recommendation on the 4K Ultra HD set of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the 7 film collection, and I'll be back right after this.
Earlier this year, I had a chance to go see Relay in theaters, which was one of my more anticipated lower budget independent films, in that it was like a 70s style thriller, to the point where they actually ended up making a 70s style thriller trailer as like a gag or joke for it. And now I've had a chance to review the Blu-ray of it, which is released by Thunder Road, Bleecker Street, a bunch of other production companies on it, and it's hitting home video right now, and it's a pretty good release overall. Like, I had a really good time watching it, obviously in theaters, and having a chance now to watch it a second time on home video. I can say that it's captured pretty much the exact same, visual fidelity and feel of it. This isn't a 4K release. It's a regular Blu-ray, so you're not getting like the tone mapping that you would necessarily get when you go to see something in theaters, but it's got a style to it that lends itself well to regular Blu-ray anyway. SDR mapping is perfectly fine for it. The film stars Riz Ahmed, Lily James, and Sam Worthington, and it's basically an interesting look at what would you do if you were a whistleblower and then wanted to return the documents to not even deal with the police or anything because you're too afraid of the harassment or potentially harm that could come to you. And it's an interesting idea because it also deals with the relay system, which is where you call, you call somebody who is, deaf or hearing impaired, and you basically say what you're going to say, and the relay system, people that work there, then put it through a teletype machine that goes to, the person on the other end, where they can read the response, and then they type it back, and then they read it back and forth to you. And the idea being that the people that work at the relay station are not able to ever disclose what they're saying or anything. It's not recorded. It's all protected by federal law. And interestingly enough, when I was actually 6-7 years old, when we had moved around, the babysitter that my parents had found for me was a deaf lady, and she had one of these machines. It was obviously a little more primitive than that because it was the early 90s, but that was the thing. When she would receive a phone call, there was like an indication. I forget how she would hear that it was happening, but like maybe she would get the phone call, go to the machine, and it was like this big little computer terminal sort of thing, and it would have text pop up almost like an electric typewriter, and it would tell her what was happening, and then she would type in what she was going to say. And she could actually, like, you could have a conversation with her because she had like, I think, scarlet fever or something when she was a kid, and went deaf, wasn't originally deaf, and she had learned how to read lips, and when she talked like somebody who is hearing impaired talks. But if she could see your face and you spoke to her, like I was a kid speaking to her, she completely understood what you'd say and could communicate back to you. It was just obviously, if she couldn't see your face, a phone call wasn't going to work. This is in the days way before video calls, right? So in watching the movie, it reminded me of 30 some odd years ago, having a babysitter that used a machine that was part of the system. Even though it wasn't in the States, it was in Canada, it was a similar system. So that was interesting to me. It's a good thriller. I won't spoil anything because it's one of those ones where there's twists and turns and all that. It's well acted. It's well shot. The music and the ambience and everything fit it quite well. It's well directed. It's a good script. It is with full DTS 5.1 master audio, lossless. It's in the original theatrical aspect ratio. The only downside to this release is it's a very bare bones release. It's just the movie. There's not like a bells and whistles special features on here. And I think it's because it's a lower budget picture. I would have liked to have seen a whole bunch of included special features on here, but just the fact that it's got a really solid release on home video, it's definitely worth watching. I don't even think it's worth, like, some people say, oh, you should just rent it. I think this might be a good one to collect into your collection because it is a good thriller, and a really good thriller that keeps you guessing all the way through is very, few and far between nowadays. I definitely recommend that you pick it up.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got from our friends over at Razer. Well, it's that time of year and it's time to make your gaming space spooky. Whether that means you put up a couple of, paper ghosts, or you put up like a rubber, monster or something like that. Well, maybe I got something a little bit different. So Razer is once again continuing its collection of collaborations, and Razer reached out and said, hey, do you want to take a look at our latest Pokemon collaboration? We know how much you enjoyed the last one. I'm like, well, twist my arm. And they sent over the Gengar collection. Now, I actually really like Gengar. It's one of the original 151 Pokemon. I have a 98 Gmax in Pokemon Go, and I have a hundo of this Mega in Pokemon Go as well, and it is actually one of my favorite Ghost-type Pokemon. So the Gengar collection consists currently of 3 things. You get the Razor Kraken Kitty V2 headset, which is wired. That's important to note. You also get the Razor Cobra, which is another Pokemon-themed mouse, so very similar to the earlier Pokemon mouse that came out earlier this year, also very similar to the Minecraft mouse that I've taken a look at. And there's also a new Pokemon-themed mouse pad for the Gigantus V2, which features Gengar and a gigantic big splash of that iconic kind of royal purple. So to talk about the headset for a little bit, this is very much styled upon their Kitty Kraken style, but the ears do not light up. So it's very similar to the spiky top of Gengar with its very pronounced hair and its kind of horns sort of thing. So very representative of the Pokemon himself. They also have these RGB silhouettes of Gengar on the outside of the ears, so when you're attached to a powered USB connection, those can light up and you can futz with the Synapse app and probably do some cool stuff with that. Also on the inside of the ear cups is also a Gengar design. Again, kind of cool. Didn't expect that. You didn't have to go that hard, but you did. Now, I decided to try this out with my iPad just to see how it sounds. And I had my wife go to another room and I called her on FaceTime and it worked out surprisingly well. I was actually very surprised with the mic quality of this, and I would almost wonder if it was better than the Kraken V4Xs that I looked at earlier this summer in the other Pokemon collaboration. Can't give you 100% saying that I like the sound on that better, but my wife seemed to say I was coming through crystal clear on my iPad Pro, so I think that definitely goes there. And again, the main reason you're probably getting this one is because of the aesthetic, because it is Gengar. I kind of hope the collaboration continues with Razor and Pokemon. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised Pikachu was not the first pick on this. If I had to pick another style of Pokemon, I think you could very easily do an Eevee collection and an Eeveelution entire collaboration. Please, Razor, my wallet can only take so much, but I think that would be a real easy home run. Or maybe Mewtwo or Mew would be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it's a really cool headset. It works really well for gaming. Like I said, I love it on my iPad, on the Switch. I think it's fantastic. If you wanted to use this with like other consoles, you'd probably have to plug in. I'm not much of a PC gamer, so that's just not my bag. Again, for mousepad, I love the artwork on this. So like I said, it's got Gengar, he's got his giant ass tongue, so he's probably using his fast charge move of Lick. Now, it would have been cool had we got more artwork of the evolution, maybe go from Gengar to Haunter to Ghastly, just to see the evolution chain, maybe even having a G-Max Gengar on here, I think would have been kind of cool. But it is simplistic, it does work. I don't think a lot of stains are going to show up on this thing because it does have that, like I said, that deep royal purple. I should look up how to clean these things. I have been using my Pokemon Gigantus V2 mouse pad a lot this summer, and maybe it needs a little bit of a clean. So, but anyway, I like it. I think it looks pretty good. And like I said, if you're gonna get the headset, you might as well get all this to kind of match up. And as for the Cobra mouse, I like the artwork on this. Again, featuring Gengar in two separate poses. looking very mischievous and evil, as befitting a ghost Pokemon in the first place. So overall, I think the Gengar collection is a pretty solid win for Razor. The only thing that might be a deterrent to somebody is the fact that the headset is not wireless. I hope eventually we're able to get something that is wireless, and I'm really hoping Razer takes the opportunity to develop a dedicated Synapse app for the iPhone, because that's the environment I primarily use things. When I bring my Kitty headset in public that actually can do the RGB with the lights, yeah, I want to be able to make it look cool. And I think having a Pokemon theme might kind of add to that little bit of a coolness factor. Well, as much as a cool guy in a wheelchair can be, but hey, I still think it's neat. Yeah, I think Razer has really done a fantastic job with their collaborations this year. I know we'll be looking at probably a couple more before Holiday Gift Guide comes in, but overall, I think Razer did a fantastic job with the Razer Gigantic V2 soft gaming mouse mat, also with the Kraken Kitty V2 Gengar USB headset, and then finally with the Razer Cobra customizable gaming mouse. If you liked the collaborations before, you're probably going to like these. So, gotta catch them all, as they say, and that's going to do it for me. Big thanks to Razer for sending this stuff over for review consideration. Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really interesting we got sent for review from our friends over at Konami. They sent over a copy of the latest entry into the Silent Hill franchise on the PlayStation 5. I'm going to be talking about Silent Hill F, and these are my impressions of this game so far. So I have a pretty interesting history with the Silent Hill franchise. I began all the way back in the 90s on the original PlayStation 1. I remember sitting up all night with my friend Ryan and Ben playing this on the PlayStation 1 and having a really fantastic time. It also kind of cranked up the horror and thrill of the experience, as we didn't have a memory card, so we couldn't exactly save when we were killed by weird creatures of the night that Silent Hill loves to populate its spooky towns with. This one is a little bit different, where it's not necessarily the Silent Hill you're expecting. You play a young teenage girl named Hinako, and this takes place in a different time period. So, like, I want to say sometime in like the 60s or something in Japan. So this isn't your traditional modern day Silent Hill. And I would also say it's a bit more action oriented. Like, you do get a stamina meter and a sanity meter, and those can augment some of your combat abilities, whether you're swinging pipes or whatever objects to kill the weirdness that just happens to be living out there. But you're not going to be walking around like you're the bride from Kill Bill or the Terminator. Eventually, your little schoolgirl is going to get tired, and maybe it's time to bolt. But there is a mechanic where you can offer offerings to a shrine in the game, as Hinako seems to be somewhat religious, and you can get different boons and different abilities to help boost your character, whether it's like maybe you get a boost of stamina, or maybe healing items do a little bit more, something like that. Storyline wise, it's Silent Hill, which means weird as crap, and you're just going to have to deal with that. And it's very strange, but it's also kind of tragic and sad when you see just how Hinako reacts with her family and how she looks at some of those familial relationships. But again, it wouldn't be Silent Hill if it wasn't weird. The puzzles in this game, I think, are hard, but I've also been out of the survival horror genre for quite some time. Like, I'm used to survival horror a la Resident Evil, where I can solve it with a 9mm to the face, or maybe something like Dead Space, where I have heavy industrial lasers to deal with something, and that's a little bit more my speed. It's not to say I didn't have fun with Silent Hill F. I really did, because it looks gorgeous, it sounds gorgeous, and it's a really intense game from that perspective. Like, some of these puzzles will drive you up the wall, but when you solve them, it genuinely feels super rewarding to do so. And like I said, the storyline is interesting. I love one of the first big puzzles you run across is you run into this individual wearing a fox mask, and that's what you just call him, like Fox Mask, and you're told to don't trust don't trust them. And how that plays out, well, you're just going to have to see how that goes. Like I said, this is not what I expected. And do I think it's worth playing for everybody? Yes, but I'm going to say maybe wait for the price to come down on this one. If you wanted a more traditional Silent Hill experience, there was the remake, I want to say from last year, maybe the year before last, that I think might be a little bit more up your alley. But if you could get this on a Black Friday sale, or if you could get this to play during the Halloween special, like maybe someone gives this to you as like a Christmas or birthday present early, cool. I mean, my birthday's coming up in like a week, so I wouldn't say no if someone dropped this on my PSN account. But I think overall, Silent Hill F, it's not what I expected, and I'm kind of okay with that. So if you want to play Silent Hill from a much different storytelling perspective than what you may be used to, and having a little bit more action than previous titles where you don't feel as weak, I find it, I like the idea that I can keep swinging, so to speak here. Like, I don't feel as wimpy without I feel less wimpy because I'm not just using a kitchen knife. A good old lead pipe will get the job done just as well. So Silent Hill F, good puzzles if hard, amazing atmosphere, great music, great voice acting from the English cast, because that's how I primarily played this, and a really good atmospheric mix when you're playing this with headphones. I had a really creepy time playing this at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So anyway, big thanks to our friends over at Konami for sending this over. And now back to Alex.
Alex, the producer here, just with a quickie review. Our friends at the Criterion Collection sent over the latest David Cronenberg film, The Shrouds, to review. This is a movie that I had heard about a few years ago that I forgot was being made, and I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. It was a very limited run here, which I usually try to see as many of his movies in theaters as I can. And we have returned to the weird, I mean, not that he's ever really left weird, but we're firmly back in the weird Cronenberg era. This was a movie about somebody who invents a new technology where you can watch your loved ones decomposing bodies in the grave as like some sort of morbid, like, sending away party. Like, you watch them over the time. Okay, you know how people visit grave sites and they'll talk to them, you know, it's sort of a thing people do, you know, it's been happening for centuries. Or you have the idea of when you go to a grave site, sometimes they have digital things where it plays a screen video or slideshow of people so people can remember them. It's that thing, only in this it's like video technology that is inside of the coffins, and you get to watch the person as they decompose over years and years or whatever. It's like messed up. Cronenberg thought of it when I believe he had a family member pass, and it was something that came to him in dreams, and he wanted to make into a film. And I guess that's a good way to, you know, go through grief or go through things in life, is, you know, express what happens in your dreams and nightmares and put it to film. Interesting idea. There's conspiracy afoot within the plot of the movie, so it's not just that. Obviously there's things going on that lead to twists and turns, as they do in most Cronenberg films. It is well acted, obviously well directed because it's Cronenberg, and in true Criterion Collection fashion, there's a bunch of features that they produced for it. There's a Meet the Filmmakers with David Cronenberg, which was a Criterion channel original interview that they did and conducted. The original trailer, and then there's English subtitles on it, and some notes created for it too. They didn't go completely all out with this release because I think it's pretty controversial even for Cronenberg, but I can say that they treated it with the love that they usually do for auteur filmmakers. It is pristine transfer, very well done. If you're a fan of Cronenberg, you're definitely going to want to pick it up. And I almost feel like it might have gone under the radar for people. It's one of those things where it just sort of came in theaters, didn't have a ton of fanfare, maybe because of how controversial the topic was. And then it's now hit video, and it's, I think, for Cronenberg fans, Criterion fans, auteur fans, people that like challenging films, this is probably going to be one for you.
Hey Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. Once again, I'm here to talk to you about something really special we got from our friends over at Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. I'm talking about the 4K Ultra HD with a digital code of James Gunn's Superman, which came into theaters this past summer and was honestly a really, really good time because, hey, kindness is indeed punk rock. And this is sort of the first real theatrical outing into James Gunn's new DCU. However, that being said, we now have Creature Commandos, which was established as the first official project in this universe, and Peacemaker Season 2, which is a continuation of this movie's storyline. It does tie in. There is a pretty big cameo from Superman. I'm not going to spoil too much of it, but definitely go check out Peacemaker, whether you're on HBO Max or if you're on Crave in Canada. So to talk about the movie, what can I say? It was a really fantastic time. It was sort of a return to the bright and happy version of the Superman character. Kind of felt like Christopher Reeve meets Smallville with a touch of the DC animated universe, sort of like the DCAU, so sort of think like Justice League sort of thing. Regardless, David Cornswet is a wonderful Superman and a great Clark Kent, and I did have my reservations about him prior to the movie. This movie does away with that. Nicholas Hoult is an outstanding Lex Luthor. Didn't expect that's for sure. And yeah, and just seeing like other characters, like did not expect Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Hot Girl, as Dina from The Last of Us. That was kind of surprising. And Mr. Terrific is ultimately like a real badass. I kind of hope he shows up in other DC projects in the future. But no, it's a seriously fantastic movie. No notes, absolutely worth it. Worth checking out. To talk about the special features, Warner Brothers is one of the companies that when they want to do something right, they really do. There's like an hour long making of. There's a bunch of little shorter docs on here, and there's even like an animated short with like Crypto saving a bus, which is kind of fun. These are the types of discs that I look forward to looking at because I can tell they want the effort there. And when Warner Brothers can really put the effort into stuff like this, it encourages me to want to get physical media. Like, I want those special features. I want those documentaries. I want those making ofs. And I want something a little more fleshed out than just like a press kit sort of thing. If it's longer than something I can find on YouTube, I'm probably into it. And as long as it's deeper than sitting on the red carpet or going to a press junket where you speak with the stars for 5 or 10 minutes and ask them the exact same 5 to 10 questions I've heard from other reporters all day, then yeah, I dig it. So ultimately, Superman, I think it's a very solid addition to your collection. Like I said, there's over 90 minutes of material on this disc. The documentary alone is worth watching. I hope they'll do more with this. I suspect before Man of Tomorrow comes out in about a year or two, I imagine we'll see another release of this disc with some additional material. Again, that's me just kind of future casting, but we'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, yeah, Superman from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment on 4K looks fantastic, fulfills all those needs that I have as a comic book dork. I think about the only thing I might have suggested with this set was maybe like maybe a PDF or something from DC showing what this was maybe based on. That might have been cool because I've seen this happen with like other Marvel releases. They'll give you like a free month to the Marvel Comics app. Maybe that would have been something, but I get it. So yeah, overall, seriously worth it. You should probably pick this up. I think it's a very solid release, and I think the DCU is off to a promising start. And if it's going to be under anybody, I'm glad that it's James Gunn.
For thousands of years, we have been at war. But before we were enemies, we were like brothers.
You ready?
Always ready. Let's punch in.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here. I'm here to talk to you about something really cool we got sent from our friends over at Renegade Game Studios. I'm talking about their latest entry into the Essence 20 for their Transformers role-playing game. I'm talking about the Transformers 1 sourcebook. Can you believe it's been over a year since we had Transformers 1? Why do we not have a sequel? Hasbro, I shake my proverbial fist at you. Can we please just make this happen? Pretty please? I'd be so happy. But anyway, so Renegade has fortunately adapted the Transformers 1 universe into something that we can use with our Transformers, the role-playing game experience. And I kind of dig this because it allows you to play bots that don't have a transformation cog. So that's literally a new origin where you just start as a bot and you can earn your T-Cog as the adventure goes on. But they also introduced new factions. There's the autonomous bots. I wonder who they'll become. But you also get the High Guard, which is what the Decepticons would eventually turn into. But it also gives you ideas that you could like kind of play with this. Where like maybe you were a part of the High Guard before Sentinel got killed and you defected, or maybe you were pardoned by Optimus Prime like at the end of Transformers 1 where he banished the High Guard and Megatron from Iacon City into the wastes of Cybertron. So it does give you new options, but you're also getting the big reason to get a lot of these books is to get some of the extra characters and stuff like that. So you are getting characters. I'm actually just gonna check out some of them right here. You are getting characters such as Shockwave, that's no big surprise, Skywarp, Slipstream, Soundwave, Starscream, Thundercracker, but you're also getting big heavy hitters like Alpha Trion, right? You also get various versions of known G1 characters in their more primal form, such as Brawn as a bot, Chromia. You're also getting Ironhide, Jazz, Moonracer, Prowl, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Wheeljack. That's pretty cool. You're also getting some of the weird techno-organic life forms. So if you want to run into the Cybertronian Robo-Deer, you can do that. And again, I think that's kind of neat. It also gives you rules and suggestions for adapting some of the heavier themes. One of the things that they point out is what happens when an ally turns into an enemy over the course of the game. Again, watching what happened between Orion Pax and D16 before they became Optimus Prime and Megatron, they were buddies. And again, I think that's really cool. And you've seen this play out in multiple iterations of Transformers media. I mean, you saw what happened between Starscream and Jetfire, right? Even Octane and Sandstorm. This does play out multiple times. Like, sometimes people want to leave and they just can't. I mean, multiple iterations of the Transformers comics have turned Thundercracker from being just this mindless seeker goof into being a really complex character who's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And somehow he ends up in Hollywood, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But no, ultimately, I really think it's cool to have additional options. Plus there's some new weapons, some new like origin perks. There's new things you can do where like if you want to be like Elita 1 or rebellious yet hopeful, there's some, I know there's one called Dutiful. So there's those. And again, having more options for your Transformers game is not always bad. Plus you could probably adapt some of these to some other things like G.I. Joe or Power Rangers or whatever. Again, that's what I like about the Essence 20 system. You can literally plug these things in almost anywhere, and it works with not a whole lot of effort on your behalf. I guess I'm really wondering what's going to happen next with the Transformers role-playing game. I know we haven't touched anything really from the Cybertron trilogy. We haven't touched Robots in Disguise. We haven't really touched Prime or Animated or even the IDW comics in anything super in-depth. So I'm really curious to know where these books are going to go. I really hope we get one for Skybound, which is a fantastic series which is available right now, which you should be reading across multiple different titles. But it's cool. So ultimately, I think Renegade has done a fantastic job. I really think these guys are doing the IP right so far. especially in regards that we get multiple versions of characters. It would be cool if we got like a huge quote unquote monster manual of notable bots. I think that would be really cool, just to get maybe some more bizarre versions of characters in there, whereas buying all the books piecemeal for just a couple of threats and allies. I get why it's a business decision, but I think it'd be really cool to, I don't know, maybe you can throw Nightbird in one of these things, or maybe Desus, or like a book based on the Wreckers or something like that. I think that'd be cool. I'm just spitballing ideas out at you. So yeah, ultimately Transformers 1, the source book from Renegade Game Studios, a massive thumbs up from me here at This Week in Geek, and definitely I'll be integrating this into any of my convention games that I'll be running next year at GriffCon.
I see strength in you. Take these and access your full potential.
We can transform now!
How do we use these things?
Come on!
Hey guys, Ken Reels here, and welcome to my first impressions of Lego Party for Steam. However, it is available on all platforms. Thank you to the folks over at SMG Studios and Fictions for sending me a code. This is a Mario Party-like. It is the Lego version of that. It is a 4-player board game style with mini-games you play after each round. These mini-games are voted for by the players of the game at the end of each round. Success in mini-games decides the turn order, allowing you to outdo your opponents by just being better at the mini-games or screwing over your opponents by being better. Main currencies are studs and golden bricks, coins and star equivalents respectively. Final turn shops turns into chance spaces. Basically everything that you get annoyed with in Mario Party has all been fixed in this game. Minigames are simple to understand with seconds of trying out in practice. Also, many of them have a general chaos element to them, while chaotic is also on the user for the chaos and not just the game itself. Boards are quick to understand the gimmicks for, but they also have these build spaces added to give multiple different outcomes when you're playing the same board multiple times, and it adds variation to each of your playthroughs. You gain unlocks for different minifigures for each play, and there are hundreds upon hundreds of minifigures that you can unlock in this game, and that unlock system you do by playing through the game, but you also have a individual board progression of those unlocks. So if you play a respective board multiple times, you unlock more minifigs, you unlock add-ons to those specific boards that adds elements to said boards. And you also have crossplay. Crossplay is enabled on all platforms. That includes Switch, Steam, PlayStation, Xbox. All of those platforms. You can play with your friends regardless of what platform they play on. And given the fact that this is cheaper than Mario Party on Switch 2 at $40 USD, Lego Party is easily a no-brainer for anyone regardless of where you play. While from my first impressions of playing a board or two with the CPU difficulty, it's not great, especially when they're on lower difficulties. I had mini games where the easy set CPUs spent like 2-3 minutes trying to complete the mini game. And overall, that's really my only gripe. This is a huge win for people who love Mario Party, and it felt like the past decade or so of iterations in the franchise have been very lackluster or lacking in multiple aspects, with not a single mini game that I've played so far feeling like I never want to play it again, like I did with Mario Party Jamboree, like I've done with a bunch of the past Mario Parties of the last decade or so. I'm going to flat out suggest Lego Party in the future when I meet up with my family. Heck, I own the Steam version. I'm probably going to buy it on Switch because that's how good this is. Genuinely, go buy Lego Party, people. This is not even a question of, oh, it's Lego, I'm not really big into Lego or whatnot. No. This is the Mario Party we've all been waiting for. It's fun. It's not bullshit. It doesn't try to mess you with all this extra added content of, oh, you have all these extra modes for it, and we're going to charge you $20 extra for these extra modes that you're not going to use. Just it's so much better than Mario Party Jamboree, especially if you own a Switch 2 and are looking at the Switch 2 upgrade for Mario Party Jamboree, and you go, that's a little pricey. Yeah, it is. It's very pricey. But holy hell, this is a great iteration of the Mario Party-esque formula. I can't recommend it enough. This is amazing. Go check this game out. Once again, thank you to the guys at SMG Studios and Fictions for sending me a code.
A new Optimus Prime is here, more powerful than ever. Power Master Optimus Prime. Power Master Transformers, they've got the power to surprise.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk about something really kind of exceptional for me. Once again, Hasbro has sent over something really awesome, and this is the Takara Tomy figure. This is the first ever masterpiece level figure I've ever looked at. So this is, and I want to get this right. So this is the MPG-09 Transformers Masterpiece Super Jinrai. I think this comes from Super Master Force, I want to say, but I know this figure under a different name. This is Power Master Optimus Prime. And you might be thinking, okay, Mike, big deal. This is actually a very important figure to me. So when I was a kid, growing up, I never had an original Optimus Prime. As I mentioned in a previous review, the closest I had was the inner white Ultra Magnus body that came with, G1 Ultra Magnus. He was just a recolored Optimus Prime as the inner bot. So when I got Power Master Prime for Christmas one year, it was the coolest thing I ever had. And years ago, before I had to sell him to buy one of my first manual wheelchairs, I had a rebuilt Power Master Optimus Prime where I took the time, I sourced all the parts, I rebuilt him from the trailer up. And it's just been always one of those Transformers G1 figures that has always really kind of stuck out to me because it's so pivotal in my Transformers love of the franchise. So when I got a masterpiece level figure, I did not know what to expect. I've heard wonderful things and I've also heard horror stories, but as Transformers engineering has evolved since the first MP1 Optimus Prime, which I traded a bunch of Pokemon cards for it because I had to sell my original one. You can guess why. Getting a wheelchair. I was really impressed with this. One of the things that really blows me away is it feels so G1 inspired. What I mean is this thing has the big trailer and it also has the core bot as well. And I think there's 2 separate versions of this, where you can buy one without the trailer and all the accessories, but you can buy the Super Genrai, which is what I have, that has all the effects, the blast effects, multiple weapons, 2 versions of the Power Master gimmick, or High Q, I think his name is. And it's kind of incredible, the versatility that's built into this. And in terms of accessories, you get different hands. If you want to change this into a Power Master Prime accurate figure, if you want to have completely blue hands, you can do that. If you want to have the head with red eyes like the original G1 toy, you can do that. I've chosen to display mine in the Super Genrai colors and head, which is more like of an anime expression on his face, and it looks, frankly, I'll be real here, really friggin' sick. I am so surprised with the posability of this figure. It doesn't look dumb with blast effects. I actually mounted, he has 4 cannons, like his ones you could mount in his hands or on the trailer. So he's got his 2, I think they're called precision rifles or something, and 2 other, I don't know, I guess ion rifles, and I put those in his shoulders, and I mounted the blast effects on his shoulders, and he looks like he could take on the entire Decepticon army and Galvatron himself. It looks outstanding. Now, in terms of transformation, simple yet complicated. Here's what I mean. Transforming him into his core from truck to core mode, there's a lot more panels than I expected, and I would almost wonder if you're going to run into problems with things snapping if you're not really careful. And I wish I was a little more careful when I was transforming mine. I had to put a little bit more pressure than I would have liked, but that's okay. He was able to display. I put pictures up on my social media. I'm not sure when, as of when you're going to hear this recording, but I was really impressed with the posability of the core bot. When you fold him into his combining mode, he literally, you fold up his legs, you attach his smokestacks. That's maybe a minor complaint too. I really wish the smokestacks were made out of die-cast metal, because I really wonder if the pegs from the back of his legs into the smokestacks will degrade over time and eventually snap off. So I might say transform as needed, I might say. But when you combine him into the Power Master mode, holy crap, this thing looks cool. And it's very reminiscent of what you remember when you were a kid. The only lame thing about this thing is the city mode, base mode, never did anything for me. It still doesn't. Yay, I guess. Sure. I'm glad it's there. I mean, the trailer does a lot of heavy lifting. Like, you can armor up this thing and it still looks just as awesome as it did. It displays great in vehicle or super mode. Base mode, not so much, if I'm going to be real. But you can have like a mini High Q hang out with them if you want, so that's cool. Complaints about this figure: having the Power Master rest in the core bot's chest is a little flimsy. Again, I wish there was die-cast smokestacks, because I think I would just release less stress on pegs, I think would be great. I think the hands and the rifles could have been redone a little bit better. I find the tension on them just a little bit weak. It does come with stickers, but I think the paint looks pretty good. I'm not going to risk applying stickers on a Masterpiece level figure because A, I'm not that confident, and number 2, I think it looks good as is. And from what I've heard, I don't have this figure yet. This can combine with another Masterpiece figure, so you could create Super God Bomber, which does look pretty cool, because when you look at Power Master Prime's feet, it does look a little weird. You'll see what I mean when you see him in his combined mode. Again, I don't have this figure. Maybe I'll ask Hasbro for it, because it would be really cool to get this guy displayed. Now, the price point is where this is going to hurt. If you are collecting Masterpiece Transformers, then awesome. I would say a lot of the later Masterpiece figures that I've had a chance to handle but not review are outstanding. Now, this is the one I have to look at objectively. Do I think it's worth it for the price point? Yes, especially if you have an emotional connection to this figure. It is one of the nicest posable figures at that scale. Like, it basically has modern posability, more or less. And I think it's like outstanding, and just the fact that it feels so rugged, I think is really, really, really great. Oh, I did think of one small gripe, and this may be just isolated to my example, as I have seen pictures where this is not the case. When you fold down the Power Master head that you can easily swap out, it doesn't always sit flush in the core bot. So it doesn't always sit right in. There's like a little slot on the top of the core bot's head where the Power Master head will slot down with a small tab. It would be nice if it would lock in place, but if it did, I could see tension over time wrecking that. So I guess I'm kind of glad it doesn't. Maybe I could mess with it with like a hairdryer, but I really don't want to. So what do I have to say about Super Jinrai? I think it's cool. I really do. But it is really an investment. If you had to pick between this and a Titan class, I might say go with the Titan class depending on which one it is. If you have the choice between this and Scorponok and Trypticon, I kind of like Trypticon a little bit more. But if you want something that is smaller, that is really had the love poured into it by the engineers over at Takara, this is really something special. I really think so. And I'm really glad Hasbro sent this over to me. I hope I get a chance to look at more of these in the future. Like, if you gave this as a gift to someone who has strong memories with this particular G1 incarnation of Optimus Prime, I think you're going to make their day. I know it certainly made mine. So big thanks to Hasbro for sending this over. And, this is friggin' cool. So I'll be back with more.
But in a flash, Power Master Optimus Prime becomes a super robot. Power Master Transformers! Power Master Transformers sold separately.
Those magnificent bastards. Color me kooky, but something very odd is going on around here.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
And that's going to do it for the show this week. Thank you, everybody, for staying around and listening with this. I know we had a whole bunch to go over, but it's been quite an eventful and busy last couple of weeks with us at Twig, with all those things obviously going on, plus the holidays. We've got a bunch of like Halloween stuff either recorded, in the middle of recording, getting it ready to go. I know Birdman's recorded a few things I've got to help edit over the next couple of days, because we are planning, knock on wood, to release more Halloween content pretty much every Sunday, the next 2 Sundays leading up to Halloween, and have stuff, for Halloween as well, with our annual special that we do with James Rolfe, the AVGN from Cinemassacre. We've got New Earth versus Soups coming up, The Devil Possessed, which is a movie from 1974, as well as Evil of Frankenstein, which is from 1964, and then Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein right on the day before Halloween. So we've got that fun stuff from them coming up there. We have a few other things. I'm not sure the exact order we're releasing, but we have some other Halloween stuff in the can ready to go, plus our regular programming and shows. I know that Birdman's been busy recording with the other guys. As far as what we have coming up, we've already started to have some holiday gift guide stuff come in, because as you know, we're planning this stuff ahead of time, and the way companies work is a lot of times you'll get product to check out and review, several weeks beforehand, and a lot of that in the States means stuff before Black Friday. So we'll be doing Black Friday coverage like we've done the last couple of years, with quick little guides for that, as well as the full main guide a couple weeks later when we do our holiday gift guide. When you have basically, a month left or so to shop before Christmas, and then we always do like a last minute guide for things that either came in at the end or digital things that you can pick up if you're scrambling for something and you didn't have time. We usually put something like that out about 12 days or so before Christmas, so you have time for that. But that's already in the works, so we've got a bunch of stuff coming. So we're checking out some games, a bunch of stuff from 2K that came out this year that we didn't get a chance to look at earlier, we're now having a chance to look at. So I wouldn't expect necessarily full reviews, but probably some previews and impressions of them before we consider them and talk about them for the gift guide. Same goes for Ubisoft. We're going back and looking at some stuff from them. I've also got a big box came in just before the holidays from our friends over at Asmodee. We haven't had a lot of stuff to review from in a little bit, because just timing wise didn't work, but they've gave me a heads up, and they said, would you like to check out our Q3 and Q4 stuff that we've got coming? Some stuff for, is available now. Some stuff is going to be available for the holidays. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? So we've got half a dozen games and board games and different different hobbyist games that we can check out that we'll be talking about. Some will be saved for the gift guide. You can expect us to talk briefly about some of them during the next couple of weeks when it comes to regular programming as well. So that's stuff from me on my end. I'm waiting on a few other things to come in, some interesting collaborations between IP brands and some bigger named computer and gaming accessories we'll be talking about. Birdman's got a few of those as well. Plus, obviously, we're getting close to the big holiday push for video games, so we'll have plenty of bigger AAA games to talk about there in the future. And we're also waiting on hearing back about some other stuff for the holiday gift guide. So keep apprised. We'll keep talking about it as we get closer to that. Plus other interesting plans we've got for the holidays coming up. So that plus a slow work on a revamp on the website, because it's hard to believe it's been 5 years, but it's time for, I think, version 8.0 will be coming out at this point. Birdman is going to be working on some podcast art. The plan is to have different pod art for every one of our shows so that nothing has to share the Twig logo anymore. The main Twig thing will be just for the main show, and then we'll have for when we do Sunday Funnies or when we do the review shows like this, they'll have a slightly different logo so that you can sort of have an idea and a variety, so it's easily a little bit better visual style that way. Plus revamping and updating of the ones that we've already got for the prototype, Future Imperfect, Loose Cannon, that sort of stuff. And we'll see how that goes. The plan is to have that hopefully launch before we go take a break in the holidays, but if not, we'll have it ready to launch when we come back. We're playing it by ear and making sure that we're not overworking ourselves or rushing it, because everything works as it is now. But the plan is let's have a refresh. Let's put a new coat of paint and everything and make sure everything's functional, because it's been a little while, and it's always good to update your website with newer technologies and security and whatnot. So that's basically what's been going on our end. I am actually, as of this recording, going to be leaving today to go see the new Tron movie. I had never seen Tron 1 or Legacy at all, and I watched them both over the holiday weekend with family, and I'm like, it's fun. I know the new one's not going to be great. It doesn't have great reviews. My brother is a super fan though of Trent Reznor, and he loved the last movie because of the Daft Punk in it, so he doesn't even care, and he hasn't seen any of the laser 4K movies in 3D at our local theater yet. He went and saw an IMAX 3D movie with me in the summer, but he hasn't seen the laser one with the big reclining seats and everything. So I was like, you know what, for the music, for all that, we'll go check it out. We'll have a good time. It's one of the cheaper matinees we're seeing, so I'll probably mention my thoughts on that next time Birdman and I are together, because I believe he went and just saw it yesterday or the day before, so that should be fun. If not cringe, but maybe fun still. That's it. I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for listening. We'll be back later on this week right here at thisweekingeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.